woke up and didn't know where I was. With my lifestyle, that happens from time to time. Usually, it means waking up at a friend's house or in a jail cell. But this was different. It looked like an abandoned mansion, maybe once someone's master bedroom. The furniture was draped with sheets, the air thick with dust. No sign of anyone. On a vanity table sat a mirror that looked oddly new. A folded note with my name on it rested beneath it. Shaking off my headache, I slowly stood and approached the note. What it said made my blood run cold. Rico. Good morning. I hope you slept well. You are currently in the former home of Simon T. Willingham. This illustrious 3-story estate could mark the end of your story. I have hired someone to firebomb the home at midnight. With the few hours you have left, you must find your way out. All windows are boarded up, and most doors are sealed. You've no one to blame but yourself. Best of luck. XOXO. Prestige. I'd heard of Prestige before, but never thought I'd cross paths with them. On the streets, they're known as an anti-hero of sorts, putting people through twisted tests to force them to face their sins. Looks like I was next on their list. The clock read 9:34 p.m. That gave me roughly 2.5 hours to get out. The door to the hall was slightly cracked, a faint light shining through. I opened it cautiously and saw a single spotlight illuminating a dresser. On top of it lay a flashlight and a kitchen knife. I took both without hesitation. To my left, a small window had a clean, circular hole cut into one of its wooden boards. I peered through and realized I was on the 3rd floor, overlooking a courtyard with a shattered fountain and a statue of Willingham himself. Simon T. Willingham had been a powerhouse real estate agent in Las Vegas, known for cutting unbelievable deals and selling off luxury properties. 7 years into his career, it came out he had mob connections. When law enforcement closed him, he disappeared without taking a thing. I remember reading about that. Every door on the 3rd floor was locked except one, his study. A brand new nightstand sat in the corner with another note addressed to me. Rico, I've provided you with light and a weapon. But what's inside this drawer may be more enlightening. You thought you could hide your past mistakes, but I know everything. See if this means anything to you. XOXO. Prestige. I opened the drawer to find a photo of a little girl. Written above her head in Sharpie were the words, "Do you remember me?" I didn't, but I felt like I should. The clock in the study read 10:13 p.m. I needed to move faster. At the opposite end of the hall were 2 staircases. One had completely collapsed, the other looked unstable but climbable. I took 3 careful steps before crashing through into what turned out to be a shoe closet filled with expensive heels and designer bags, Willingham's wife's collection, no doubt. A jagged shard of wood pierced my forearm. Gritting my teeth, I yanked it out and wrapped the wound using one of the silk shoe bags as a tourniquet. The once white fabric turned crimson. Then I heard more wood snapping. The remaining staircase collapsed completely, cutting off my way back up. The 2nd floor was an old entertainment area. A home gym. A theater. A massive bar that put most clubs to shame. Despite being 3 months sober, the shelves lined with whiskey and rum were tempting. On the counter sat another note. Rico. A place like this should feel familiar, given your history with excess. One small bottle of Fireball could be the reason you're here. Think hard about that. Maybe it'll hit you before you know it. XOXO. Prestige. I slammed the bottle of Fireball across the room in frustration. Another riddle. I still didn't know what they were getting at. The next room was a guest bedroom. The bed was covered with sheets, and at first, there was no note in sight. But just as I turned to leave, the sheet moved. My heart nearly stopped. Pulling it back, I froze. It was Veronica Tillman, my lawyer. Her mouth was taped shut, a necktie wrapped over her eyes, blood running down her forehead. She was tied to the bedposts. On her chest lay another note. Rico, Veronica played a part in your judgment. Justice may have been blind, but she was the tool of your freedom. Now, you'll have to prove how badly you want that freedom. Leave her, and you'll receive your true key to escape. If not, she'll only slow you down. XOXO. Prestige. There was no way I was leaving her. I pulled off her blindfold and began cutting her ties. As soon as one hand was free, she tore the tape off her lips and gasped that she didn't know how she'd gotten there, only that something had struck her from behind near her office. I told her everything I knew about the notes, the mansion, and the picture of the little girl. She didn't know what it meant either. Together, we pressed on. At the staircase, another note was taped to the banister. Rico, if you're reading this, you chose to save Veronica. Noble, but costly. The stairs and first floor hallway are covered in shattered glass. I removed her shoes. You'll have to carry her now. I warned you she'd slow you down. XOXO. Prestige. The note wasn't lying. Every step was a bed of glass shards. Veronica looked mortified. I told her I'd carry her and that we'd make it out together. She nodded through tears. By the time we reached the dining room, it was 11:13 p.m. less than 45 minutes left. Another note waited on the table. Rico, you've made it far, but Veronica slowed your progress. The key would have been here if you'd left her. Now it's been moved. You'll find it in the garage, though someone's waiting there. Someone with a bone to pick. Tread lightly. XOXO. Prestige. I handed the letter to Veronica. We exchanged worried glances and headed for the garage door. At the bottom of the stairs, we found a Hummer blanketed beneath a dusty sheet and a man chained to a support beam beside it. When I ripped the sheet off, he snapped awake, furious and muffled by duct tape. I stripped it away and he immediately shouted my name. Do you remember me? He demanded. I didn't. He told me his name was Michael Peterson. The name clicked, his daughter, Lexi Peterson. The girl from the photo. Everything came rushing back. The accident. The bar. The flashing lights. Lexi's bicycle. Veronica confessed what I had forgotten 8 months ago. After leaving a bar well over the limit, I struck Lexi in a bike lane. I had tried to rush her to the hospital, but a car hit us in the crosswalk. Lexi died in the street. Michael's grief turned to rage. He called me a monster. I didn't argue. I couldn't. Then a cell phone rang in his pocket. Veronica answered it on speaker. Hello, Rico. Prestige's voice rasped. You have 3 minutes to choose. Michael holds the key to your freedom. Free him, and he decides your fate. Refuse, and the fire inspector will find 3 bodies here by morning. Veronica, interfere, and you'll die with them. The call ended. The room fell silent. I looked at Michael and freed him. He clenched his fist, smirked, and said the key was taped to his hand. Then he swung at me. His punch split my lip open. As I fell, I begged him to let us all leave. He told me a man like me didn't deserve to. When he came at me again, I plunged the knife straight into his chest. His body went limp. Trembling, I tore the duct tape off his palm and found the car key underneath. The Hummer's key. I dragged Veronica to the vehicle. Inside, a dozen empty Fireball bottles sat in the passenger seat. Another note was taped to the dashboard. Rico, congratulations. You've made it to the end. Now's your chance to make things right. Ram this Hummer through that garage door and drive toward whatever redemption you can find. XOXO. Prestige. I told Veronica to get in the back seat and stay low. I turned the key, floored the gas, and blasted through the garage door just as the mansion erupted behind us. Tears streamed down my face, joy and guilt colliding. We were alive, but at a terrible cost. Veronica lifted her head and whispered through tears, "Open road." She was right. We made it out. But I could never escape what I'd done to Lexi or what it cost to survive.
I never thought my fame could actually put me in danger. I know that sounds naive, but I genuinely didn't. 15 million followers on Instagram, 5 million on TikTok. I thought that kind of reach made me powerful, protected even. But I was so wrong. That night started out normal. Dinner with friends, laughs, pictures, nothing out of the ordinary. But walking back to my car alone, that's when everything changed. Someone came up behind me, strong, silent, and before I knew it, a pillowcase was over my head and I was being dragged. I tried to scream, but a hand slammed over my mouth. They threw me into what felt like a van, and just as I tried to fight, a sharp sting hit my arm. My left forearm. Then, darkness. When I woke up, I was trapped in a chair with that same pillowcase still over my head. Everything was quiet except for the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs, but not heavy ones. They were delicate, sharp, rhythmic. Heels. The kind that echo with every calculated step. When the pillowcase was ripped off, I was staring at a woman, not what I expected. She was older but beautiful in that cold, intimidating way. Perfect posture, perfect clothes, everything about her said control. She looked me up and down and clicked her tongue. "Madison, Madison, Madison," she said, rolling my name like it meant something dirty. Such beauty, such promise. Only to post garbage like this. She pointed to the wall behind her. It was covered with my pictures. My thirst traps. Live stream stills. Even private posts. Every image felt like another layer of dignity stripped from me. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. She smirked. "You don't know me? I'm your biggest fan. Who else do you think sends you money?" I froze. I get money from followers all the time, mostly men. Or so I thought. The realization that she was one of them made my whole body feel numb. Then she walked over to a box in the corner, one with my return address on it. I recognized it instantly. I'd shipped it to a top donor not long ago. Inside were my black leather stilettos from my Halloween live stream. She pulled out the little note I'd written and read it aloud. mocking my cheerful tone. "Hey, there. Thanks for being my top donor this month. Enjoy the slightly worn heels." She crumpled it and threw it in my face. Then she pulled out one of the heels, smiled, and, without warning, stabbed it into my thigh. I screamed. I think I even blacked out for a second from the pain. She laughed, actually laughed, before pulling it out and walking away like she had done something routine. When she came back hours later, she brought a first aid kit. She poured hydrogen peroxide straight onto my thigh, emptied the whole bottle like it was nothing. I cried out, but she just smiled. After she bandaged the wound, she left again. I sat there shaking, confused, trying to make sense of any of it. I'd gotten weird DMs before, sure, but never from someone like this. She didn't fit the image, older, too composed, too deliberate. None of this made sense. When she finally reappeared, it was morning. She looked refreshed, showered, well-dressed, sipping hot tea like it was Sunday brunch. "Good morning, beautiful," she said sweetly. "Sleep well?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. She leaned closer and whispered, "Do you know why you're here?" When I didn't respond, she added, "Because you're a whore who confuses validation for value." Then she touched the bandage on my thigh, circled the wound with her finger, and said, "This little boo-boo is all your fault." Then, as if she were performing, she kissed the bandage, leaving a red lipstick mark. "This is just the beginning," she told me. "I'm going to rip you apart, outside to in. Dead girls don't take selfies." She took another stiletto, taped a knife to it, and sliced my stomach 5 times, shallow cuts, not deep enough to kill, just enough to make me feel it. 5 cuts, she said softly. 1 for every million TikTok followers. She stitched me up with a hook and string afterward, no anesthetic, no cleaning. I didn't even have tears left. Later, she brought soup. Scalding hot. She pretended to feed me, but instead poured it on my chest. The burns overlapped my cuts until the pain blurred into madness. When she was done, she dabbed the boiling mess with a bloody towel, told me she was tired, and kissed my forehead before leaving. That night, she played music through speakers somewhere in the room, one song on repeat, old and haunting. I didn't sleep. By morning, she wanted me to make a video. "Your followers are getting worried," she said. She set up a ring light, applied makeup to hide the damage, and taped a cue card below the lens. "Read this exactly," she said. So I did. My voice sounded fake even to me. "Hi guys. It's Maddie La Batty. Just checking in from a secret spa. I'm fine, promise." I smiled through the lies while she watched, grinning. When it was over, she actually applauded. "Brilliant," she said. "You're such a good little actress." As reward, she gave me oatmeal and told me I could wash in a bucket with a garden hose, as long as she filmed. The pain from the water mixing with my wounds was unbearable, but it didn't matter anymore. I was hollow. Until I saw the knife. The one she'd taped to my shoe. I hid it under my sleeve while she wasn't looking. She left later, saying she was going to get pain pills. I didn't wait. I cut through my restraints, my hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped the blade. For the first time in days, I could move. That freedom was the only thing keeping me upright. When she came back, she was carrying a revolver. "This has been fun, sugar," she said, loading the gun. "But I think it's time I put my little bitch down." As she raised it, I thrust the knife into her stomach. She dropped the gun, screaming. Her blood hit the floor in splashes that matched her lipstick. She lunged again, but I grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. Over and over. Until she stopped moving. When it was over, the silence felt louder than anything. I found my phone in her pocket and dialed 911. My voice was shaking. "My name is Madison LaHood," I said. "I've been kidnapped. I killed my captor. I climbed the stairs to find the world still normal. Beautiful furniture. Roses outside. Morning sunlight through perfect curtains. The cops arrived minutes later. 2 of them rushed over as I sat on the porch, shaking. One of them asked, "Ma'am, what happened?" I looked up, barely whispering, "Dead girls don't take selfies."
She worked at my local bank. I walked in one day to deposit my check, and there she stood, blonde hair in a ponytail, bright pink lips, and a silk shirt that could make a blind man squint. She was new, and she was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. Her nameplate said Abby. She smiled at me and helped me with my deposit slip. She processed it quickly, and that smile never left her face. I'd never felt butterflies in my stomach before, but damn it, I felt them that day. My thoughts started to be overtaken by her. I was already hearing wedding bells and thinking up names for our future kids. Any spare moment I had around the shop, I found myself thinking about her. I managed to find her on Facebook, and I'm not gonna lie, I stalked her page. I scrolled through her posts and pictures, trying to learn everything I could. She enjoyed horseback riding, loved Aerosmith, and had moved here from California 3 months ago. Her status said single and she didn't have any kids. I'd look at her pictures and just smile from ear to ear. As fate would have it, she walked into my shop one day. I'm a mechanic at a local body shop, and she was having trouble with her car. I looked up from the counter, and there she was. She looked like an ad for a pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks. Curled hair, oversized sweater, fall-colored scarf, brown leggings, and riding boots to match. Some might have called her basic, but to me, she looked like an angel. "Hello, my name is Abby, and I think I need an oil change and a tune-up," she said, her smile never leaving her face. "I moved here from California a few months ago, and driving across the country added some wear and tear." "Well, you're in luck. We specialize in oil changes and tune-ups," I said, matching her energy. My heart was racing a little faster. Trying to sound casual, I asked, "Hey, you look familiar. Do you work at Second Bank?" Her eyes lit up. "Yes, I do." "Do you bank there?" "I do," I said. "I've been going there every Friday since this place doesn't do direct deposit." "Well, it's people like you who keep me busy during banking hours," she said with a little laugh that made my heart melt. God, I was in love with this woman. "Let's take a look at your car," I said, pointing toward the door. I let her walk in front of me, and this girl was the whole package. Out in the parking lot, she led me to her Chevy Malibu. At first glance, I could tell she needed new tires and definitely an alignment. I asked her to pop the hood, and she did. She was right, there was almost no oil left. We went back inside, and I asked for her phone number and driver's license for the paperwork. I didn't really need her license, but I wanted her address. I memorized it like it was my high school locker combination. I wrote down her number and told her it would take a couple of hours. I said she was welcome to stay and hang out if she wanted. She thanked me but said she'd just take an Uber home and asked me to call when it was done. I was a little crushed but didn't argue. About 5 minutes later, her ride showed up and I got to work. I saved her number and address in my phone as a new contact, even stealing her Facebook profile picture for it. I called a buddy for some new tires to surprise her and planned to cover the cost myself. I also gave her the friends and family discount. For an oil change, alignment, and brand new tires, I only charged $150. I worked on that car like it was my own, with precision and pride. When it was ready, I called her. I could hear her smile through the phone. When she came back, I started blasting an Aerosmith song, Dude Looks Like a Lady, to be exact, in the shop. She smiled and said how much she loved them. What a coincidence. I said, they're one of my favorites too. She nodded in agreement. At the counter, she asked how much she owed. When I told her the price and mentioned the free tires, her eyes went wide. She was grateful and swiped her card with a smile that could melt steel. After handing her the keys and paperwork, I worked up the courage to ask her out for coffee. She hesitated, then rejected me. She was polite at first, then blunt. Thanks, but no thanks, was the feeling I got. It felt like she told me to go to hell. She excused herself to the restroom. While she was in there, I locked the front door and turned off the security cameras. I reached under the counter and grabbed the taser. Then I waited. When she came out, she never saw it coming. I pulled the trigger. She hit the floor, twitching as the current pulsed through her body. No one says no to me. I threw her over my shoulder and carried her back into the restroom. I tied her to a pipe with zip ties, slapped an out-of-order sign on the door, and shut it. Next, I hung a closed for maintenance sign on the front door. I could already hear her screaming inside. When I opened the restroom door, her smile was gone. She was shaking, crying, her wrists already raw from struggling. Well, good morning, sweetheart, I said. She demanded to know why I was doing this. I told her I couldn't handle rejection, that after everything I'd done for her, she'd used me. She said she never asked for any of it and that every choice I made was mine. I don't have to take any shit from you. You're a goddamn tease. I yelled, pointing at her. Her eyes burned right through me. A tease? Because I showed common courtesy, she snapped. You really are a small-minded man. I snapped. I won't go into detail about what happened next, but let's just say I took care of her with a tire iron. I stuffed her body into a garbage bag and put it in the trunk of her car. I mopped the blood off the floor, thankful my boss rarely showed up. Then I called my buddy Leon to tow the car, told him it hadn't been picked up, and it was taking up space. 20 minutes and $300 later, it was heading to the landfill. No one would ever see it again. I locked up and still made it home in time for Thursday night football. Go Birds. The next day was quiet. My boss handed me my paycheck and told me to enjoy the weekend. After work, I went to deposit it. When I walked into the bank, I saw a new face behind the counter, curly blonde hair, silk blouse, and bright pink lips. Welcome to Second Bank, she said with a smile. My name's Abby. How may I help you, sir? She was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen.